Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session on clouds and safety. Our speaker today is Roger Grimes, a data security and ransomware expert from KnowBe4. Please note that right now you're all muted, but you're welcome to submit your questions via chat window at any time during the presentation. Roger will be answering all questions at the very end. With that, I can pass the mic over to Roger to get started.
Thank you so much, and thanks for everybody for attending today. Again, my name is Roger Grimes. I've been doing computer security for 34 years, earned all of these gray hairs. I was even for 20 years, I did professional penetration testing where I was hired to break into people's companies. And every time I was hired to do so, I did so in an hour or less, except for one place that took me 3 hours because I was there for the second time. I've been writing about computer security for over 2 decades. I've written 13 books, over 1,100 magazine articles. I worked for InfoWorld and CSO magazines as a weekly security columnist for about 15 years. If you don't know those magazines, they're 2 big computer security magazines in the computer security world. And I do frequently get interviewed by different magazines, and I've been in Wall Street Journal and Newsweek and NPR and that sort of stuff. I've got about 40 or 50 certifications, computer certifications, a lot of them in computer security. And that's actually not that impressive because I just worked at a place that did computer certification training. And so in my downtime, I got to take lots of tests. There's some of my books. The most recent one that I wrote is that ransomware one, Ransomware Protection Playbook, that just came out a couple of weeks ago. But been writing. I work for KnowBe4. We're the world's largest integrated security awareness training and simulated phishing platform vendor, which is a lot of doublespeak to kind of say we help to teach people to teach themselves and their coworkers and their family and friends not to get phished. Most of today's hacking is accomplished using phishing and social engineering, and so we try to help with that. But today I'm going to talk about clouds and why clouds are safer, and clouds are safer to be in. And let me say, I've been in clouds a long time. They've been around for a long time. I'm going to try to talk to you. If you don't know about clouds at all, I really do think I'm going to give you some pretty good, simple information about what they are. And if you know all about clouds, I hope to add something to what you understand. But I really am going to kind of assume you know nothing about clouds and really talk about what they are and try to take out all the techno babble and that sort of stuff. But again, I've been doing clouds and cloud security. I'm also a member of the Cloud Security Alliance. That is probably the biggest trade group around cloud security. And I'm on a working group there that does quantum security. I've written books about quantum and articles about quantum security as well. But I've been doing clouds for probably close to 2 decades, even back in the day where I would tell people, hey, we're going to the cloud. A lot of times I was working for Microsoft at the time, and I would say, hey, we're going to the cloud. And I would have people yell at me in classes and presentations and tell me, I was an idiot. Nobody's going to clouds. And there was this, point in time which it wasn't really sure whether clouds were going to take over or be a part of everybody's day life. And there was even people saying, listen, I will never move to the cloud. My company will never allow it. Our email system will never be allowed to be in the cloud. And today, almost everything's in the cloud. I mean, it just came and it just took over, and it's the way of the world, and everything is going to the cloud. And I'll talk more about that. But first, we'll talk about what are clouds. This is kind of a joke, but it's not. The best, simple explanation what a cloud is it's somebody else's computer. So it's not your computer. It's not your company's computer. It's not on site in your company, your house. It's somebody else's computer that you're using. And really, it's even more than that. So it's somebody else's computers, but it's really somebody else's network as well. Typically cloud computers are a collection of computers located somewhere else. They could be in, excuse me, had a sneeze. They could be in one location. They could be in 100 locations. They could be in one country. They could be in multiple countries. They could be, all over the place. A lot of times cloud computers will be located and bisected by country. A lot of people don't want their data going outside their country. And so Microsoft and Google and all kinds of other cloud providers will usually have their data co-located within the country of their customers. And that helps in a lot of legal things and lots of other reasons. But again, most people don't like their data headed out to other countries. So a lot of times those, even if like a Microsoft or a Google or an Amazon, those are your three biggest cloud providers. They may have cloud all over the world, but their data for customers typically, again, stays in one country. Even at KnowBe4, my company, our product works in the cloud, but again, our customers' data is kept in particular countries that are friendly towards those people, in laws and that sort of stuff. So even though the cloud could be global and everywhere, again, typically it's located in one country. But again, it's usually somebody else's computer, somebody else's network, almost always internet connected. I'm 55, and I remember the day before the internet and the way that people communicated. You know, back in the day when I first started in computers in 1986, 87, we had what was called dial-up modems. Even when I really started, when I was in 6th, 7th grade, you actually had to use a real phone and put it into what was called a phone coupler, and that thing would dial out to connect this computer, and they were huge, to the network. And then we had the modems that made the funny sounds, you know, and we had what was called bulletin board systems, where you would dial up using your phone to connect to somebody else's phone, and then their computer would eventually connect to other people's phones. And I remember literally bragging to my friends one day in the late 1980s and early 1990s that my email goes around the world in a day, because that's what it would take with a bunch of phones kind of hanging up and picking up and routing stuff. But then the internet came, and kind of took over, and now everything's on the internet. Clouds don't necessarily have to be in the internet, but I haven't heard of one that isn't. You know, back in the day, again, if you're older, you might remember terms such as frame relay or ISDN. That's when we had to like go to people's homes and install these special devices and these networks, and all they were like high-speed phone lines. But today it's the internet. The internet took over, mostly because people, instead of having to buy expensive private phone lines that could transmit data, you could just buy cheap internet. You know, your internet connection might cost you, you know, $20, $40, $60, $80, $100 a month, and that's far cheaper than any of the private connections that you used to be able to build. So everything went on the internet. I mean, even stuff that really shouldn't be on the internet, like 911 systems, you know, buying your tickets now, going on cruises, medicines, doctors, telemedicine, right? It's all over the internet today. And that just kind of took over, mostly because it was just cheaper to transmit that information across the internet than having your own private phone line. So almost all clouds are internet connected, and the customers coming to them are on the internet. Almost all of them use what's called websites or web services. A web service is, it essentially behind the scenes uses the same things that make a website work, but you're not going, when you have a web service, you don't see a website, you know, a web page. When you connect to a web service, it can look a lot different, even though behind the scenes it's kind of operating with a lot of the same protocols and rules and things like that. Well, everything that's a cloud and everything that's on the internet typically uses you know, a website or a web service across the internet to work. And you can contrast that with some standalone program that maybe you run on your computer, or again, if you're older, maybe you remember like databases or DBase 3 or something, where they were kind of these text-based programs and they didn't work and look like a website. Today, almost all programs look, if they're not a website, even if they're web service, they kind of look like you're on a website, you know, and you got to click the buttons or double click and that sort of stuff. Another big thing about clouds is they tend to have multiple customers using them, which they call, in cloud terminology, they call them tenants. If you're a customer of a cloud, you're a tenant. And most clouds have multiple customers or multiple tenants, and they'll call that multiple tenancy. You know, I guess kind of named after the apartment buildings and things like that. But a lot of people, that sometimes is a big concern about people that are going from something that isn't a cloud to a cloud, is that now this cloud service is servicing multiple people at the same time. And, you know, people are worried about, well, can this person see my data? If somebody else is using the same product that I'm using, can they see my data? Can there be a security vulnerability or something that allows me to see their data, or vice versa? So like in clouds, you have every type of security vulnerability that you and I could have just on our regular computers, or computers in our house or office or whatever. But with a cloud, you also have what's called the multi-tenancy potential vulnerabilities, that one customer, one tenant could see another customer, another tenant's data. And let me say, for a lot of years, these multi-tenancy risk we're really worried about. And we, as I'm a computer security guy for 34 years, we're really worried about multi-tenancy risk. But ultimately, there really hasn't been a lot of them. There have been occasional times when researchers or one person would find some ability to look at somebody else's data. But so far, it actually has not come to be a big risk. It's certainly not as big as we worried about. And almost none of the popular attacks kind of do what's called multi-tenancy attacks. So that was something we worried about for years and years and years, and it just didn't come true as a worry that we thought it was going to be big, that we're going to see these computer security attacks that constantly an attacker could join as somebody. An attacker would claim to be a customer of the cloud and then use that access to attack other customers. I mean, that was the big worry for 2 decades. And now that it's been over 2 decades with clouds, that particular problem from a security perspective has not been a big deal. Although, you still need to keep it in mind if you're considering a cloud product. It does mean that cloud product likely has other customers, and that cloud product has to make sure to keep your data separated from other people's data. But again, clouds in general, over 2 decades, have not had a problem with that. There's been a couple little things here and there, but they got addressed, most of them, a long time ago, and it hasn't been nearly the big worry that a lot of us computer security experts were worried about with clouds. Most clouds use what's called virtual machine technology, or VMs we call it, especially the bigger clouds. So, the 3 big cloud providers overall are Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. And they have nothing but these huge data warehouses located around the world, but let's say in America, located around America. And they have literally millions of computers. And the computers don't look like computers that you and I would ever use. They're kind of just computers on a single card that may look like what you and I would recognize as like a network card that they plug into these slots. They typically don't even have their own power supplies. They're oftentimes cooled by water. And there can be like 500,000 of them will be inside of a container truck, like an 18-wheeler container. And when they pull up to these warehouses, they literally insert the computers a container at a time. So again, the container could have 500,000 computers, and they click them in to the data warehouse, 500,000 computers at a time. And they don't remove, like if they have computers they have computers that go bad all the time. They don't get rid of that bad computer. It would cost them more money to replace a bad computer than what they really do is just wait till there's enough bad computers that they can pull the whole shipping container out and then put another shipping container back in. But even with all of those computers, the biggest cloud providers still run all the operating systems. So Windows or Linux or Apple or Unix or whatever they might be running are running on virtual machines. And that is virtual machines is essentially it's another program that you can run using virtual machines. You can run multiple operating systems and applications on one computer, and those computers, those virtual machines, can't talk to each other, that multi-tenancy that we talked about. So most, whether you know it or not, most clouds, they're using this virtual machine software. And really, it's a good thing. It allows them to put multiple different operating systems like Windows or Linux or Unix or whatever on the same computer. There is a hardware chip, computer chip on the actual physical computer called a hypervisor chip. And that hypervisor chip is kind of a security chip that keeps one VM from talking to another VM. So it keeps the tenants separated. But from a person who runs a cloud's perspective, it's really a good thing because it allows them to very quickly reset or reboot, or let's say that, a computer virus or computer worm or ransomware attacks a VM computer. The person that runs the VM can go reset and just reset it very quickly to a previous time where that malware program wasn't even there. And it's really quick and easy to do backups. You can, with a VM, you can say, do a backup, and it literally just takes seconds or maybe a minute to do a complete backup. And a lot of times with these cloud computers and these VMs, they have duplicates of each other so that whatever is running over here is running over there. And if this one gets corrupted by hackers or computer virus, they can just tell this one, go over there and just copy yourself over the bad copy. So there's lots and lots of benefits. So they have virtual machines, which have virtual computers, and they could have virtual hard drive spaces. They could have a bunch of physical hard drives that act as one virtual hard drive, or vice versa. They can have one hard drive that is split up into many different virtual hard drives. And again, the benefits are that they can keep that customer tenant data separated from other people's data. They can do quick copying, quick backups. They usually have full redundancy. So if this one breaks, this one is still running. If a computer virus or ransomware program attacks one of the virtual machines, they can do a quick restore, literally to go right click, restore to this date and time. They can tell the other one just to overwrite the current one. If this one goes down, this one will pick up, that sort of stuff. But all of the resources of a cloud are owned, managed, and maintained by somebody else. So you're not patching it. You're not backing up stuff. You're not operating it. The cloud provider, whoever's running that cloud software, is doing all that stuff. And in general, most of us don't want to have to do all that stuff anyways. If you have your own computers, what's called on premises on your location, you know that you're in charge of keeping that hardware up, keeping the network up, keeping the internet up. And if you have a problem, they typically, you're forced to deal with it. Another thing about the clouds is that it's typically subscription based, meaning there's like a monthly or quarterly or a year fee that someone's paying. Like with Microsoft, it used to be, like if you bought email or you bought an email server, they would charge you, $5,000 or something for the year until you got an update. But with clouds, like with Microsoft Cloud and email, they charge like, $6 or $12 per person per year. So it's this ongoing subscription base, and everybody tends to like it. The people that belong to the cloud product like it because they kind of know how much money they're going to spend in a given month. The vendors that do the cloud computers like it because they kind of know the incoming revenue streams that they're going to get in a given month. And if somebody needs to add, like I need more users, or I need more hard drive space, or I need it to be faster, they can very quickly add that capacity because it's all virtual, and your subscription price just goes up from that point forward. As a matter of fact, like even, you could be, let's say your computer or a virtual machine could be attacked by hackers where they're flooding it with too much traffic or something, trying to bring that service down. Well, a cloud provider can just really ramp up the network and processing power and hard drive space and all of that stuff to where the attacker just can't make it go slower, or you can say, maybe you think, I'm getting a lot more customers today, I need more room. you can call a cloud provider and go, hey, I need more hard drive space, or I need, more room, or I need another worker. I hired another worker. And again, what your fixed cost is going to be per month for that worker or for that increase. And the same probably applies, like if you lose a worker, if you had something on site, on premises, and you added an employee or deleted an employee or something like that, you're really paying the exact same cost. Whereas with the cloud vendor, you would know that, okay, I can have this, it's going to be this much more per month. And if I lost some employees, maybe it goes down to another amount. And again, you've heard me say this term a couple of times, on premises. On premises just means that it's your computer, it's running on site, and you're in your house, your office, whatever. We didn't used to have this term called on premises until we started having clouds. So now we have to create this new term, and you'll hear people go, oh, you're on premises network, you're on premises computer, and again, that's just to differentiate it from being something that's in the cloud. If you have an on-premises instance of something, that means you're maintaining the hardware, you're maintaining the network, you're maintaining the internet, you're maintaining the hard drives, you're patching the operating systems, you're updating the application, and that sort of stuff. So on-premises versus cloud. There are a couple of different types of clouds. We'll go through them. And this is kind of technical, and nobody needs to remember this forever, but you'll run across these terms when you're reading articles about the cloud. But there's three main overall types called public, private, hybrid. Public clouds are clouds that anybody can join and belong to. So that would be things like, Office 365, Gmail, email, Salesforce. So Salesforce is one of the first big cloud products, and that helps companies will many times use Salesforce. My company, KnowBe4, uses Salesforce. It helps them do sales and marketing and tracking customers and stuff. And it's called public because anybody can join it. You can call them up and go, hey, I want to be part of this. And it's connectable to over the internet. Private clouds are just for particular types of people or groups or associations. So it could be for the products that you use. It could be that you have to belong and buy a subscription to the product that you're dealing with today. And not everybody has access to it. And maybe they even protect it so that you need to join the internet with particular software to get to it. So you can't just connect to the internet and attach to that cloud. They make you choose a particular VPN or something like that. So it's still connected to the internet, but only particular people are invited to participate, and it may require special ways to connect to keep the general public. And private clouds are kind of nice in a way that they're just a little bit more protected, a little bit tougher for, let's say, attackers to get there. And then you have the hybrid models. A lot of clouds today are kind of public, kind of private. And so they could be different. And you hear people talk about metropolitan area clouds, and the state could have a cloud, the country could have a cloud. But basically, we say public, private, or hybrid. Most of the clouds are public, meaning that anybody on the internet can connect to them, pay a subscription fee, and use them. You'll see a couple of these acronyms here. If you haven't seen these before, this is fairly common, where they'll say, what type of cloud is it? And really, when you think about, and the names are kind of weird, but they all have this AAS, software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. And the acronyms will usually have the A's in the middle or lowercase, but you really have to think of them as compared to on-premises. So if you have an on-premises server and application, so you're in charge of maintaining the applications, the operating system, and anything in between that makes those applications run, because those servers or machines may need, let's say, Adobe Acrobat or a database software or web server software. You usually have to buy antivirus, you have to buy backup software, blah, 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 blah. It takes a lot to maintain an on-premises asset. And then again, they could be virtualized or have VMs. Today in most companies that I deal with, all of their computers are virtualized. It's like the world went to cloud and the world went to virtualization, and everybody virtualizes everything, even if they have the on-site computers. But if you have on-site servers, you've got the physical server, You've got physical hard drives. You're maintaining your networking. You're maintaining the internet. You're doing patching. You're doing bug fixing. You're doing backups. You're doing restores. You're doing antivirus. The whole gambit that it might take to run an on-premises server, and it's all managed by you. If you go to infrastructure as a service, what they're doing is they're taking infrastructure as a service, basically saying we're going to give you the applications. They're going to give you the servers and the VMs. So infrastructure as a service is like you go to Microsoft and go, hey, I want to buy 10 Windows servers or 10 Linux servers. So they give you the servers, Linux, Unix, whatever it might be. And then for infrastructure as a service, the responsibility of maintaining the software is your problem. So they give you a Windows server, but then it's kind of up to you to make sure it's updated and to put your applications on there and that sort of stuff. So essentially, they're just giving you a bunch of Windows or Linux or whatever computers. And you're like, oh, I need a server. I need 10 servers. I need this much hard drive space. I need this much networking. And they're handling all the infrastructure. They're handling the physical assets, the virtualization of those assets. And you're managing everything else. When you do infrastructure as a service, you're still in charge of patching and running antivirus and things like that. And maybe many times backing up and that sort of stuff, although they may back it up for you. If you go to what's called a platform as a service, PaaS, they'll say, or PaaS, then they're running even more of it. And then essentially you're just running your data in your application. So maybe they're giving you a database server, a Microsoft SQL server. So that's a whole database package, and you're just putting your data and applications on there. Or if you go to SaaS, software as a service, that really is what most clouds are. Most clouds are, there is this service, and you just buy, your sales software, like Salesforce would be one. Gmail or Office 365 for email would be software as a service, meaning that it's just the service you connect to. Most things, most cloud products are software as a service. So these are the four main types of models. Again, it could be on premises where everything's your responsibility and your cost, or you go to infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. And if you get to the SaaS one, again, you're just providing, or the cloud provider is just providing you a service that, an application that you're like, oh, I want to buy, 5 seats or 5 licenses for this application. Most clouds are software as a service, but lots of people buy the other types. But software as a service is probably the number one out there today. And actually, going back to that, the nice thing about software as a service, again, is they're handling the backups, they're handling the antivirus. Typically, they're handling security in general, and anything else, upgrades and version updates. You don't have to worry about that. Whereas infrastructure as a service, you're still responsible for patching them, for the antivirus, for making sure that they're secure. Software as a service, it's their responsibility, and you're just getting a service. You're using that service, and most people like that. Most people don't have to be worried about backup and restoring and antivirus and that sort of stuff. And the trend is clear. The cloud is here. Again, 20 years ago, I had people tell me, oh, the cloud, I don't know what that cloud is, and we're not going there, and we'll never go there. Well, everything is in the cloud. Everything that is not in the cloud is still kind of going in the cloud. Even, government and secret government organizations. And, if you look in the media, you'll see the United States government is negotiating, $10, $15 billion contracts with Amazon and Microsoft to put their secrets in the cloud. I mean, everybody's going in the cloud, even the CIA, FBI, NSA, they're going into the cloud. Some of them now have their own private clouds, that for the top secret stuff. But even still, they're still clouds. They're a private cloud. They're not on premises servers. Like, if you think about America and our intelligence agencies, they're recording phone calls and conversations all around the world. they wouldn't have enough hard drive space to store that. So they actually use cloud vendors for everything, and cloud hard drives and everything to store that information. But even every application vendor, it used to be that you could buy software from any vendor and put it on your system. One by one, they're just going to the cloud. And within 5-10 years, you're just not going to be able to buy anything that isn't in the cloud. I mean, you'll buy your laptop or your desktop computer or your pad device or mobile phones or something. But other than that, everything is going to be in the cloud. Even like I love Office, Microsoft Office and Microsoft Outlook. I use Gmail too for work, but I love Outlook. It's just really, great thing. Well, good luck trying to buy that as a standalone product. It's all in the cloud. You log into the cloud and it all kind of shows up on your screen. As a matter of fact, so much so, Microsoft's releasing an operating system called Microsoft Windows 365 Cloud PC. They're going to take not just the applications in the cloud, but the entire operating system. So those of you that are like me, or I guess everybody, you get your laptop or your computer and you're installing it, or it has software on it, you have to upgrade it. And sometimes you have to do what's called service packs or something and patching. That's not how it's going to be. In the future, you turn on your device and it downloads the entire thing, the operating system, the applications, all your settings, your desktop stuff. Like right now, if I log into this laptop that I'm teaching on today, I get one experience. And then if I go into work on my work laptop, I could even have the same applications, but it could have different settings. And if I use an Apple, I'm using Windows now, but if I used Apple, I could get a different experience. And it could be different, or sometimes I'm having to copy, like I'll be on a web browser, maybe I'm on Microsoft Edge web browser, and then I got Chrome web browser and whatever new one's coming out these days. And my favorites where I like to go doesn't copy automatically, or I get a new laptop and I got to figure out how to make my email work. I'm sure we're all used to that. Okay, how do I get this email started? Well, in the near future, every single operating system is just going to be cloud-based. So they're going to put your image up on the cloud, you log in, it is sucked down and installed on your computer just then. And there's actually a lot of benefits to it. And today, Google Chromebooks largely work that way even today. Not all the way, but they've been working that way for quite a while. In general, what's good about those things, again, is that you have the same experience wherever you log into, your settings, your favorites, your email. When you log into your laptop, you don't have to worry about, is my email there? It's there. The software that you've installed that you're using to run your business and do personal things, it's there. But on top of that, it also means that they're doing the patching, they're doing the backup. It's all done automatically. So you don't have this, hey, are you patching? They're doing the patching for you. So again, you could like this or hate this. I got to tell you, I'm 55 and I'm an older man. I don't like this whole idea that I'm downloading my entire operating system from the cloud. But it's a fact of life. This is where the entire world is headed, and you can stand in front of it and be the last person that converts to it, or you can just go, hey, it's the way of the world. This is, we've had a lot of changes the last couple of decades in computers, and this is just one more. But it is the future. It is coming. There is no way that this doesn't become the way that everything works. And so maybe this is just say, don't fight it unless you really want to, because the cloud is here and the cloud is becoming everything these days. Or what is Facebook calling it? Meta. Facebook and Google and Microsoft and all now calling it the meta or the metaverse or whatever. And they're not too far away from that already, because, everything, our entire lives are now, in the cloud and on the internet. And the last piece that they need to really convert is the entire operating system. Probably the only thing I wish they would put in the cloud and make work better is printing. So I wouldn't have to fight my printer all the time to get stuff, but we'll probably always have physical printers. So the common benefits of cloud computing, again, is that you don't have to maintain, buy, operate, repair, or upgrade hardware. Back in the day when everything was on premises, just like our laptops and our computers, like they say you should replace them like every 3 years, but I'd say most people only replace their computers when they have to. But probably somewhere around 5 to 7 years, your computers, your servers, they just start getting slow because the software starts growing and you start running out of memory. And when you own your own stuff on site, on premises, it's up to you to buy, maintain. If a hard drive breaks, you have to go hire somebody or do it yourself to replace the hard drive and maybe copy the data to see if the data can be copied. You've got to be the one that does the backup. You've got to be the one that starts thinking about upgrading and putting aside money for that upgrade. So I even told people, I said, when back in the day when I had a bunch of friends saying the cloud, I don't believe in the cloud's not coming. I used to say, well, if you sell hardware for a living, if you sell hardware for a living, that's good because you'll continue to sell that hardware. But if you maintain hardware for somebody else's company, you're probably not going to be in a great place, because the cloud means that you're not going to be maintaining that hardware. It's going to be in the cloud, right? And the only people that you're going to be selling hardware to are people's computers at home and their laptops and things like that. And also, the people that run the clouds, that have the cloud software and that sort of stuff. And of course, a lot of stuff's coming on phones. So many, so much of today's, I say kids, only interact with the internet and the cloud through their phone. I was talking to a guy, I forget the name of the company, but he said he was the auto trader of tractors, that his company existed to sell tractors, like Auto Trader. And he said that 85% of his traffic is coming off a cell phone. And that really blew me away, because I thought that, people are buying tractors and they're doing it from their phone, right? I still have this physical, emotional connection with my laptop. And actually, I like the bigger screen. Like, even if I see something on my phone that I really want to buy, like suppose I want to buy something on Amazon, I can buy it on my phone, but a lot of times I'll wait till I get back to my laptop. It's just easier to get to. But, one of the big benefits of the clouds is from a server perspective, you don't have to buy, operate, maintain, repair, upgrade the hard drives, or upgrade your network connection. As long as you can get to the internet, you'll have enough network connectivity to make that software work. Cloud benefits, again, known monthly cost, subscription cost, or quarterly cost, year after year after year. And it may go up a little bit, but they don't tend, the subscription rates don't go up that much. And when you want to add new capacity, new employees, you kind of know what it's going to be, and you can plan for that, in your revenue stream. And if things, start to slow down, you can also plan that sort of capacity, versus when you're on premises, you're just stuck with that sunk cost. You can get to your software when it's in the cloud from anywhere. So you can, it's kind of nice, in a way. When you're on vacation, if you have a laptop, you can really kind of still run your business if you need to. You don't even have to dial in. You don't have to dial in to your business to get to your business. You can just if you've got an internet connection, you can get to the cloud software and run your business. And overall, they're far safer today. And if you don't know, I'm going to give you an example of what today's attackers are like. This is how 80–90% of hacking happens. It's a combination of malware that attacks you and human operators after it breaks in. But today, most people are getting successfully attacked by hackers or malware connecting to the internet. And then they usually get tricked into downloading what's called a Trojan horse program. Something that's malicious, they think something else. So they get an email that says, click here, or maybe they get tricked into providing their password credentials, or maybe they have unpatched software that allows the attacker in, or a vulnerability of something. But 70–90% of all malicious attacks today begin because an end user is tricked into installing a Trojan horse program. That Trojan horse program then installs itself on their device, modifies that device so it can live through a reboot, and then it dials out and connects to what we call the command and control servers. Those are the servers that are controlling that particular program. And the hacker has put instructions on those command and control servers. I want you to tell this program to do that. I want it to attack that company. I want it to steal passwords. I want it to steal data. I want it to encrypt their hard drives or whatever. And then, it may say, go around and spread and go around the network and collect everybody's password. Most malware today, when it gets on people's computers, will steal their password passwords. So if you have passwords in your browsers where you say, yeah, save my password, so the next time you log in, you don't have to log in. A lot of times those malware programs grab those passwords, they upload them to the command and control servers. The hacker gangs, which are usually located in other countries, most often Russia and Ukraine, but also can be North Korea, Iran, and China. Microsoft said that 55% of attacks today come from Russia, followed by North Korea, followed by Iran, then followed by China. It was kind of shocking to me. I thought China would have been number 2 after Russia, but the vast majority of it's coming from Russia, which is why we can't stop them, because Putin will not let us arrest their hackers. Putin is probably making billions in bribes from his attackers, but these attackers then log into the command and control servers. They get this cute little admin console, and it tells them all the people they've broken into, and they can kind of pick and choose who they want to break into. These malware programs are typically in most people's networks for 8 to 12 months before they do what they do. So most of the time, even though people have up-to-date antivirus and firewalls and all this other stuff they've been told to get, the malware program is in there secretly and they don't know that it's there. And then the hackers come in and look around your network and steal your passwords and steal your emails and steal your data. And then sometimes they will encrypt you and ask for a ransom. Well, essentially, when you have a cloud here, the most that the attacker can typically get to is just your computer, and they don't get to all the data and stuff. And even if they do, even if they are successful in getting to that data and encrypting that data, the cloud provider can respond, block it, and restore the data quicker. So that's the big thing, that there's a big safety in the cloud because they take care of the backups. They're doing better backups. They're doing more frequent backups. If something goes wrong, if you even accidentally modify your data, sometimes they can restore it. And if you get hit by malware, ransomware or something, they can restore from it. So even like, when you have a server that's on premises, you might have to worry about a tornado or a hurricane or a lightning storm or a fire. When your data is in the cloud, that's all the responsibility of the cloud provider, and they typically have pretty great backups and data recovery, and so they have easier restores from catastrophic problems. Usually, like if your entire house would burn down or office would burn down, you replace your laptops, start logging into the cloud again, and everything, all your data is there. You're up and running a lot quicker. The cloud vendors are typically taking care of preventing malware from attacking you and them. They're doing the antivirus scanning, they're doing the patching, they're doing the backups. There's overall far less downtime to cloud vendors. A lot of the cloud vendors have 5 nines or 99% uptime. It's not perfect. Sometimes cloud vendors do go down. I think Facebook went down a couple of months ago recently for 5 hours or something. But that was big news around the world because it was pretty unusual. Typically, the cloud vendors are up, and because they actually many times have to pay money when they're down. But overall, cloud vendors have better security and less downtime than on-premises stuff. They're far less likely to be taken down by ransomware. Cloud data does get encrypted by ransomware sometimes, but they're really they usually have good data restore things to restore that encrypted data. So you're almost always up far quicker if you have cloud data. I don't know what the real data is for everybody worldwide, but anecdotally, when people get hit by hackers and ransomware and stuff, they're down many days to weeks and months, if not years sometimes, because their data is just ransomware and taken and locked up. I've never heard of a cloud person being down longer than a day, at least from the cloud perspective, right? Usually the victim has to still get their laptops cleaned or get new laptops or whatever it is, but their data in the cloud is able to be restored from that ransomware attack the vast majority of the time. And so they're not normally down. They can literally go home, log in on a clean computer, back into their office data environment and be up and running. The other last thing I'll mention is that cloud vendors can see problems that individuals can't. Like if there's a big ransomware attack against a bunch of customers, a cloud vendor can see that. They're like, oh, we're starting to see this attack here and we're seeing it here, and they can start taking, defenses against it, or spam. Like maybe you're getting some spam or phishing emails and you think it's just you, but the a cloud provider, if they're involved in your email, may be able to see that spam coming into many different people and go, oh, this is a spam attack, and they'd be able to more quickly recognize it and stop it. Clouds I'm a big fan of clouds. Again, you can get in front of the freight train, but clouds are coming. But you do need to ask who owns the data that's in your cloud. Is it you or the cloud vendor? And if you quit that cloud vendor, do you get the data back, right? So that you can then take it, either keep it at home or take it to another cloud vendor. So that's an important question to ask. It's also important to see who can see your data. Usually no other customers or tenants can see your data, but you want to make sure that they are careful not to let even everybody in their company be able to see your data. Like I work for KnowBe4, our entire product is in the cloud, but I can't see any of our tenants' data, right? Or any of our, any of the customer data. I'm just a guy that works in marketing and PR, and I do presentations. And so I have no need to look at customer data. And so I can't see customer data. And the only people that can see any customer's data is just a handful of individuals. And if somebody that is not authorized to look at some customer tenant data looks at it, they can be fired, first offense. You do want to make sure that whatever cloud vendor you go through is doing proof of good security practices. Ask them, do you do backups? Do you do antivirus? Tell me what you do. Do you get audits? Are you compliant? Do you do, this or that? It's always good to ask them to give you proof of what they do to protect your data. With that said, again, the average cloud provider has far better safety and computer security procedures than the average person outside of a cloud. I'm going to finish up here. I guess I've been droning on for 46 minutes, but I'd love to take some questions. If I don't get any questions today, or you don't want to ask your question today, you can email me at rogerg@knowbe4.com or follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter. But with that, we're going to see if we have any questions. Let me get to our console here. I don't see any questions off the top. Let's see. Nope, I don't see anything here. Don't see anything from the audience. Only thing I can tell you, again, is I appreciate you being here. And I promise you, I'm not, all the things I know I've talked really good about the cloud. I do like the cloud. I'm not, no one's paying me to say that I love the cloud or anything, but I've always been a proponent, and not just me, it's taken over the entire world. There's a lot of good things. A lot of good things about the cloud. Makes most people's lives easier and more predictable. But again, make sure to ask those questions I talked about before. But any other questions before we finish up today's talk? Well, if there's any questions, I don't see any. Thank you for putting up with me today, and I wish you good luck and success, especially as we go into the holiday seasons, and hope that everything, hope commercially and professionally, everything's doing great for you. Thanks for putting up with me. I'm Roger Grimes. Good talking to you all.
Yeah, thank you, Roger, so much for the informative presentation. I hope you guys all really enjoyed it and learned a little bit more about the cloud. We do have about a 12-minute break now, but at 1 o'clock EST, we'll be picking back up with our customer highlight session featuring Cody Armstrong from ATS, which he will be talking about his experience with our cloud DMS. So if you'd like to continue the conversation about the cloud, please join us in about 12 minutes. We'll look forward to seeing you there. Thanks again, Roger, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Take care.